The DLN Foundation is a non-profit trust aimed at recognizing, encouraging and promoting excellence in the field of law.
To welcome His Lordship, Honorable Mr. Justice Abhay Shreeniwas Oka, who has spared his invaluable time to deliver the keynote address today.
The first conversation that I had, she gave me 10-minute non-stop of the work that she's doing.
The Kaveri River's dams are depleting at an alarming rate. The groundwater underneath us is already depleted. Thus, we are in this crisis today.
Today you have a stage where people, the main two people are just not judges. They are passionate about this subject.
India's poor are the ones who suffer most from the deterioration and loss of the nation's precious commons, that is the water, air, soil and forest.
That the earth belongs to us, but we forget that in fact we belong to the earth. We are under a wrong notion that environment belongs to us, but in fact we belong to environment.
Judge Supreme Court of India, the chief guest of today's function, onto the dais. I request Shri K.N. Phanindra to escort Justice Sunil Dutt Yadav, the guest of honor for today's function, onto the dais. I request Shri Anuradha to kindly escort Shri V.L.N. Rao, Senior Counsel, High Court of Karnataka, onto the dais. We would like to commence today's function with the playing of the national anthem. I request all to please stand.
My Lord Honorable Justice Abhay Shreeniwas Oka, My Lord Honorable Mr. Justice Sunil Yadav, Honorable members of the judiciary who have graced the assembly, respected Mr. D.L.N. Rao, Ms. Nirmala Gowda, environmentalist, the awardees who are taking part in today's deliberation, respected senior advocates, learned brothers and sisters of the legal fraternity, respected invitees, ladies and gentlemen. Some among the juniors and associates of Sri D.L.N. Rao came together to perpetuate their affection to Sri D.L.N. Rao, who not only known for his erudite scholarship, artistic articulation, winning demeanor, and most of all, his indomitable qualities of humility and humane strength of character, which has endeared him to the bench, the bar, his seniors, his peers, and anyone who interacts with him. On 11th March 2023, with the blessings of our former Chief Justice of India, His Lordship Honorable Mr. Justice M.N. Venkatachalaya and Honorable Mr. Justice Subhash Adi, Sri R. Venkatramani, our respected Attorney General of India, inaugurated the D.L.N. Rao Foundation. The objective of the foundation is to spread the values nurtured by Sri D.L.N. Rao, which is worthy of emulation, primarily through seminars and conclaves, identify worthy professionals and confer the Dhoti Award conceptualized to encourage the professionalism while highlighting the achievements of such awardees and also to motivate them to take part in activities which will reinforce the profession and also identify and sponsor students through their respective colleges to supplement their academic requirements. My Lord, in the year 2024, one of the widely discussed topics is environment. Greenhouse gas emission, carbon footprint, its tonnage, the effect in the United States of America, and attacks on the safety of the environment the world over is all spoken about, but rarely efforts are made to contribute to the effort of preservation of the habitat or exercise restraint over individual or corporate activities which add to the load of pollution. It was felt by the foundation to arrange this seminar to usher in more awareness and be advised of the legal perspective on the topic of contemporary importance. We could not think beyond any of the personalities who have adorned the stage today to conduct this seminar on roads to guaranteeing environmental justice. It's a matter of great honor and privilege to me, on behalf of the Foundation, to welcome His Lordship, Honorable Mr. Justice Abhay Shreeniwas Oka, who has spared his invaluable time to deliver the keynote address today. Mr. Justice Abhay Shreeniwas Oka, born on 25th May 1960, enrolled as an advocate on 28 June 1983 after completing BSc LLM at the University of Bombay. Millard started practicing in Thane District Court in the chamber of his father, Sri Shreeniwas W. Oka. In the year 1985-86, he joined the chambers of Sri V.P. Tipnis, a former judge of Bombay High Court and former Lokayukta. The professional prowess is green in everybody's memory in the light of his appearance in several important matters and public interest litigations. He was elevated to the bench as an additional judge of Bombay High Court on 29 August 2003 and was appointed as a permanent judge with effect from 12 November 2005. Karnataka was fortunate to welcome you, sir, as the Chief Justice of the Honorable High Court of Karnataka on 10th May 2019 till you were elevated to the Apex Court where you took oath on 31st August 2021. When the country was rocked by the pandemic and work at all places got stalled due to lockdowns and other restrictions, Karnataka High Court was the first among other high courts to introduce hearing of cases through video conferencing on the virtual platform. His Lordship introduced this innovation, which was acclaimed all over the country. We, the people of Karnataka, take great pride in following your illustrious career, especially as the elevation to the Honorable Supreme Court is from our state. The developing law in the field of environment has received notable contribution from several of your pronouncements, and your passion to ensure a clean environment and dispensing justice against violators is a matter of common knowledge. We stand benefited with the profound knowledge that you possess, which you have kindly agreed to share through your keynote address. As a judge of the Honorable Supreme Court, you will be laying down the law relating to various subjects, including environment, which is bound to enrich this country. I request our member Sri K.R. Pradeep to honor the personality by presenting the potted plant symbolizing today's seminar. Honorable Mr. Justice Siddhappa Sunil Dutt Yadav, born on 3rd August 1972, was appointed as an additional judge of the Honorable High Court of Karnataka, where he took oath on 14th February 2018. He is a permanent judge since 7th January 2020. As an advocate, my Lord has dealt with several matters involving environmental issues in general and lake preservation in particular, many of which on a pro bono basis. His concern towards preservation of lakes has helped saving many lakes against encroachment or pollution in and around the city of Bangalore. A major role played by you, sir, in reservation of Kapataguda in Gadag district is fondly remembered. On behalf of the Foundation, I express my deep gratitude to Honorable Mr. Justice Sunil Dutt Yadav, who has consented to speak on the legal strategies to further environmental justice. It's a matter of great honor and privilege to me, on behalf of the Foundation, to welcome His Lordship, Honorable Mr. Justice Sunil Dutt Yadav, who is the guest of honor for today's seminar. I request our Secretary, Sri K.N. Panindra, to honor the personality by presenting the potted plant symbolizing today's seminar. I deem it an honor and a matter of great pleasure to welcome members of the judiciary who have responded to our invitation to participate in the seminar. I heartily welcome Srimati Nirmala Gowda, environmentalist, who has kindly consented to speak on this occasion. I welcome the awardees who are participating in today's seminar. I heartily welcome all the learned senior advocates who have graced the occasion and the learned advocates who have honored our invitation and taking part in today's proceedings. I heartily welcome Mr. Ramarkant Anand Hegde, Justice Narmakant Anand Hegde, Justice Poonacha, and Justice Vijay Kumar Patil, who have graced this occasion this afternoon. Last but not the least, the most important personality of the day is Mr. D.L.N. Rao, whose inspiration has given rise to this foundation which has organized this function. I heartily welcome Mr. D.L.N. Rao. I welcome Mrs. D.L.N. Rao and members of his family who are here to participate in this afternoon's deliberation. I have great pleasure in welcoming members of civil bodies and resident welfare associations who have spared their time in participating in the above seminar. I also welcome Justice Amaran Navar, who is also among us, to participate in this afternoon's seminar.
Keeping with the theme of guaranteeing environmental justice, I request the dignitaries on the dais to kindly partake in watering of the plant. The DLN Foundation is a non-profit trust aimed at recognizing, encouraging and promoting excellence in the field of law. The foundation draws its inspiration from the principle-driven life of Sri D.L.N. Rao and his invaluable contribution to the legal field. In the pursuit to encourage legal education amongst the less fortunate and with a focus on rural students, the foundation has constituted a scholarship which sponsors the tuition fees of 2 students per year. This year, the foundation has identified 2 students from the University Law College as recommended by the institution who will be recipients of this year's scholarship. Mr. Manjunath and Ms. Kavya Shri, both first-year students of the college. I request Professor, yes, he's come. Professor Sudesh to please come on stage and receive the letter of commitment from our chairperson.
I thank the D.L.N. Rao Foundation for this very kind gesture. The 2 students that I have nominated belong to the below poverty line. One a girl and a boy. One's father is a coolie, the other one is an orphan. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. The Dodi Award has been constituted as a recognition of ethical, sustained and legal practice in rural areas of the state. The thought behind the award is to encourage and motivate legal practitioners from the rural areas. The foundation this year has identified Sri Venkatesh Prasad as the awardee for this year's Dodi Award. I request Sri Prasad to kindly come on stage and receive the award from His Lordship Justice Oak. Sri Venkatesh Prasad enrolled in the year 1991 and has put in 32 years of practice. He joined the office of late Sri Sangagal Sanna Sharanappa Advocate Bellari, practicing in the civil side, predominantly on insurance. He is a panel advocate of 15 companies, including public sector and private sector companies. He is also a standing counsel of the ESI. His father, V. Kodandacharya, is an awardee of the Lalit Kala Award by the Government of Karnataka.
I thank D.L.N. Rao sir for honoring me. Thank you very much.
It is our belief that every seed, there is a promise of thousands of forests. And this afternoon, we are attempting to sow a few seeds in all your minds so that each one of you will be able to germinate some great contribution to the environment of our city. And that we feel was very important. The minute I asked His Lordship to come and support our organization, he was so very willing. And I want to share with you all that he has travelled from Delhi to Mumbai, Mumbai to here, only to attend this event. There is nothing like having shared experiences and collective wisdom, and it is in that thought that we are having this seminar. Before I call upon our speaker to speak, I think some facts that I want to put forth, and this has been given with our media partner, Citizens Matter. So they are a team which collects only data. from the city, what's happening and how the environment is changing. So according to the Indian Institute of Science, we had something like 8.4 lakh population in Bangalore just about a decade ago, and now we are 1.4 crores. So 48% increase in population. So which means obviously housing, office, building is going to create a huge havoc. No doubt Bangalore is situated really like a hill station, but we are all sweating today. And 2 years ago, Bangalore was under the waters. So we wonder why this change has happened. Now we had something like green cover was 68% in the city just 20 years ago. For those people who were born and brought up here, I think we should forget that Bangalore which we had seen while growing up. And today, sadly, the green cover is 7%, which is really an alarming situation. And such collective wisdom or shared experiences really makes a lot of effort in trying to make something to bridge this gap. That's all we can do is what I feel. But Sir will now guide us how else we can take this forward. Now, as per the Legislative Council's House Committee report of 2017, we had 837 lakes in Bangalore, out of which 88 has completely disappeared. And in the remaining that are there, we have 80% with no water. So we have something like 3,000 to 4,000 square feet of area coming up, which means there's going to be development into that. So we need to do something with regard to that. And there are many directions which we got while His Lordship was heading the green bench here. Now when it comes to water, there's acute water shortage here. What we need to keep in mind that I hope His Lordship was here for some more time, I'm sure we would have got an order to say that for Bangalore city, drinking water is a fundamental right to get it. And we can hold it back before we share. Now, commensurate with our population. Compared to Chennai and Bangalore, our population is quite high. But let's see how we can take that forward. Now, traffic is hazardous. We have 23 lakh private vehicles on road. On bad roads from past 10 years, I've been for some time I was called as pothole Anuradha in the High Court. And my lords gave an order that giving motorable roads is a fundamental right, or seeking motorable roads is a fundamental right for every citizen. And His Lordship is sitting here. He has been my opponent many times. Mr. Justice Patil is here. So after that, all I can share, sir, is that we do not have any periodical hearing of these matters. I think that is where we are lacking. I feel, sir, that we should have dedicated days. I know sir used to conduct hearings on Saturdays and out of court hours for these issues. But thereafter, with great respect, I want to put across that we've not had many hearings. I have some statistics which we have got from the Registrar of High Court, which I will put across as soon as my Lord Justice Yadav will speak about legal strategies. Now we have metro connecting the city, but according to what we have heard or what statistics we have, metro is very expensive for a common man to move around. So we need to find ways how to bridge this gap. And air pollution, I don't think many civil bodies are taking air pollution as an issue. But air pollution is really an issue that is coming, because with so much of traffic that is coming into Bangalore, air pollution is one of we don't have any yardsticks which are being measured as to how much pollution levels are there in Bangalore. I think it's time we should start recording them is what my request is to whoever are the responsible people for that. Now I think it's time I should ask our speaker to come up. I want to say a few words about her. Please bear with me. After a long time, I met such an enthusiastic person. Saw an young self of myself. Come, Nirmala. Nirmala is a computer engineer by education and profession. She's worked in many multinational companies in the US. Now she's returned back home and she uses her own money to take up projects for safeguarding environment. And her main area is rivers, and she's done a huge lot of work. The first conversation that I had, she gave me 10-minute non-stop of the work that she's doing. That you could make out how passionate she is. So I'm not going to come in between you and her. Nirmala, please.
Bangalore is reeling with an intense water crisis. We get water from two sources, Kaveri, 100 kilometers away, and groundwater underneath us. The groundwater underneath us is primarily from the water from lakes. The Kaveri River's dams are depleting at an alarming rate. The groundwater underneath us has already depleted. Thus, we are in this crisis today. When the groundwater can be effectively recharged with water, largely from water from lakes which depend on rainfall and wastewater, treated or not. However, today, our lakes are extinct, as Ms. Anuradha Madam told, or there are very few of them that are dry. Why are they dry? They are dry because the inlet channel that brings water to the lakes are either choked or redirected. So even when it rains, the water doesn't enter the lakes. So there are two sources of water to the lakes. One is rainwater. Because of this re-engineering of the lake inlets, we have squandered away the rainwater. So now we fix our attention on wastewater. 80% of the water used turns into wastewater. Roughly 50% of that wastewater is treated in our treatment plants, and the rest of them end up in our rivers, including Kaveri and Dakshina Pinakini. If the wastewater, that is the treated wastewater, is reused within the city, say for construction and certain industrial purposes, that could reduce the demand on fresh water. If the treated water lakes were used to fill the lakes, that would improve groundwater availability. So this surface storage is key today for us to maintain sustainable groundwater levels. But wastewater, which is another resource that's supposed to bring water into the surface water, is also absent. Why? Because of the conscious government's decision to export treated wastewater from within the Bangalore city, treatment plants from within the Bangalore city to Kolar and Chikballapur. They are drought prone, no doubt they need water, but so do we. So we've squandered away the rainwater, we have squandered away the wastewater. What do you expect of the groundwater? Where is the recharge coming from? There isn't any. And thus the crisis today. It is moving water from one place to another, a decision that's highly political in nature, defies logic and gravity. And this is an engineered problem. It is a very, very commonsensically engineered problem. The water scarcity is very, very intense. It is intense depending on where you live, and where you live depends on the economic status. My brother lives in central Bangalore. He gets ample Kaveri water. Nothing has changed for him. He has not experienced crisis. I live on the outskirts of Bangalore, higher income neighborhood. Never has our community ever had its own source of water. We always imported water, like 80 tankers a day into our apartment complex. That's no small number. Every time there's a scarcity, The price per tanker hits the roof. For the first time in our apartment complex, water has been rationed since the end of January. Water is cut off from 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. We didn't play Holi. Oh gosh, we didn't play Holi. The kids were so sad. But this is manageable for us. However, my maid's life has been turned upside down. All their community borewells have dried up. The panchayat brings them water. And the tanker driver, who now wields enormous power, distributes water to that particular family whose person is present. Now my maid and her husband go to work, children go to school. So who is to secure water during distribution during the day? Because of this, she misses work. Not only she has to pay the high cost of water, but she also has to take the brunt of lost wages. Perhaps we are kind enough, we compensate her, but what about her neighbors who work in the garment industry, and for every day lost, they don't get paid? So where is the right to equality here in terms of water distribution in the city? Then today, Bangalore is demanding treated wastewater, and that to tertiary level of treatment. The tertiary level of treatment is not the infrastructure we have. We have the infrastructure for secondary level of treatment. Tertiary level means removing phosphorus, which is very expensive. And the citizens of Bangalore and the experts in Bangalore are saying secondary treatment pollutes the lake, and subsequent groundwater recharge also results in polluted aquifers. But the same logic didn't apply when we exported our water to Kolar and Chikballapur. Since 2018, Kolar and Chikballapur have been receiving partially treated, secondary treated water from Bengaluru, thus contaminating their drinking water aquifers. The irony also here is Kempegowda International Airport uses tertiary treated water for flushing. So you do the math. We are living in the times of climate change. There is severe inequality in our world. We have to balance our water demands, urban water demands, with that of regional water demands. With the effects of climate change and global warming set to intensify, how do we delicately balance nurturing our cities with that of regional water demands? For the past few weeks, we are hearing news of the elephants dying. As the elephants trek through the parched lands, they're dying of dehydration. Elephants we can see. What about the fish who live in the water? We can't see them. What about the majestic mahashir that lives in the Kaveri, which is now endangered? They are silently bearing the brunt of our actions. Don't they have the right to live? Don't they have the right to clean water? Flowing healthy river is their home. Don't they have the right to home? Don't they have the right to healthy flowing river? How do we protect these intrinsic rights of nature, especially in times of crisis? This is the big question in front of us. Today we are in crisis mode. There's fleeting solutions, temporary measures. When the crisis is over, everything is forgotten, like we forgot everything with COVID. Crisis or not, our actions must have enduring conservation and thoughtful crafting of urban wastewater policies that balances nurturing our cities and honoring the wildlife that we share earth with. Our collective responsibility today is to create a future or to create a now where every drop of water tells a story of balance, equity, and justice. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I just have to add what Nirmala said. Whatever she said is correct. 10 years ago, BWSSB decided to put water pipes to beyond 10 kilometers from the radius. Now that water pipes have not been put. That is drinking water. So the Kaveri drinking water has not been able to go from the middle of the city, that is from CBD, to any of the areas. And this also works with the cartel people who sell water. They're very happy. If there is no pipes to take Kaveri water, they're happy to sell the water. So this, and now lakes are drying up. His Lordship had given so many orders with regard to the lakes. My Lord, what has happened is many of the orders are getting implemented, but as per the data that have been maintained by the civil bodies, the entire process is non-transparent again. So they are not giving us information as to how they are doing it. To the lakes that we have been personally working on, that has been stopped and no further orders have been made. Now the government is telling, or the department is telling, whether we should have complete participation with the private entities or is it completely our own. The orders as they read appears to be that it is only government which needs to do and no private participation. That's how they have understood that orders. So with this confusion, they are just going round and round, and from past 3 years, no orders have been implemented. And even on the roads issues, apps were started after my lords gave orders, but now none of them are working, so we're back to square one. Well, this is a very evergreen issue and lots to discuss, but what is it that you can do as laypersons? What role you can play to activate everyone around you? For that, I'm going to call Justice Sunil Yadav. And before I do that, I want to tell two things about him. Today you have a stage where people, the main two people are just not judges. They are passionate about this subject. And when Justice Yadav was taking up litigation with regard to environmental issues, there are two main important things that he canvassed and they were accepted by the court. One is public-private partnership, or the government should not give away all state wealth to be managed only by private persons. That was one thing that was canvassed and was accepted. And two, whenever there is any intergovernmental two departments dispute, that has to be decided internally by committees. So disciplinary committees were constituted, interdisciplinary committees, pursuant to his submissions before the court, and that has been working very great even till now, sir, these two aspects that you have taken up. And there's so much more, and it's just paucity of time that I am not stating, but I do call upon Justice Yadav to speak to us. Please.
Before I start with this brief talk on legal strategies to further environmental justice, I can say that today's environment in this hall is enriched by Justice Oak's presence, who truly believes in furthering the cause of environment, in ensuring that the law is implemented. Achieving environmental justice within the legal framework is the process of struggle within and without the system, and in that process there are many tiny victories and serious setbacks. But what keeps the process continuing is the unfathomable and often amorphous idea of contributing efforts for the betterment of mankind. It is this satisfaction and idea of justice that drives the role players to continue in their efforts and struggles. Before we dwell into the main topic, a quote from the preface of Environmental Law and Policy in India, Cases, Materials and Statutes by Armin Rosenkrantz, Sham Diwan and Martha L. Noble. Unlike the situation in Western countries, Indian environmental law and policy is not a preserve of the affluent middle class interested in resisting growth. In India, those most deeply affected by environmental deterioration are the poor, displaced and dispossessed by deforestation and other natural resource despoliation. They are the first victims of poor sanitation, bad air, contaminated water, and scarce wood for fuel and fodder. India's poor are the ones who suffer most from the deterioration and loss of the nation's precious commons, that is, the water, air, soil, and forest. A similar observation has been made by the Apex Court in the recent judgment of M.K. Ranjit Singh and others versus Union of India and others in writ petition civil number 838 of 2019. The Apex Court in the latest judgment has carved out a new right from Article 14 and 21 of the Constitution of India, namely, right to be free from the adverse effects of climate change. The further observations in the context of impact of climate change on the poor at para 25 reads as follows. If climate change and environmental degradation lead to acute food and water shortages in a particular area, poorer communities will suffer more than richer ones. The right to equality would undoubtedly be impacted in each of these instances. The road to guaranteeing environmental justice recognizes adopting of suitable legal strategies to be adopted to ensure that environmental justice is obtained, which is context specific. The choice of a judicial remedy under various acts, be it the Water Act, Air Act, Forest Act, provisions under CRPC or other forums available such as NGT or invoking constitutional remedies, form an important component of environmental justice. Claims could be before the civil courts seeking injunctory reliefs, claims for damages, suits under Section 91 of CPC, whether suits could be instituted for violation of public trust doctrine under Section 92 of CPC is a further question. Similar proceedings under Order 1 Rule 8 could be invoked. Suits for protecting private rights arising out of public nuisance is a private right available against a public wrong. Action for removal of nuisance is also a remedy that could be invoked under Section 133 of CRPC. Action may also be initiated under special legislative enactments such as the Environment Protection Act, the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1974, the Forest Conservation Act 1980, the Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1981. The forums include fora under the National Green Tribunal Act 2010 and its appellate authority. Finally, we have constitutional remedies under Article 226 and 32 of the Constitution of India. The choice of the remedy must be based on the relief sought. The move is to approach the lowest fora where relief is context specific, example, abatement of nuisance or claim for damages, injunctory relief, etc. If relief is specific to the jurisdiction of NGT, then such fora are to be approached. Where relief is sought in the nature of guidelines which are to be enforced, then resort to constitutional remedies may be justified. Once the fora is selected during the course of litigation, there are tools employed by litigants as well as courts that include appointing of specialists as amicus, formation of committee to examine domain-specific issues and calling for reports, appointing commissioners for ascertaining ground reports and to obtain scientific reports. During the conduct of such litigation, recourse could be had to the invocation of principles which have shaped environmental jurisprudence and are particular to environmental jurisprudence such as sustainable development, polluter pays, public trust doctrine, intergenerational equity, and precautionary principles. The invocation of legal strategies, it must be noted, are eventually long-term strategies, and the very process plays an important role of sensitization, education, and imbibing a sense of responsibility for greater good. The culmination of such initiatives intend to obtain relief, but would have served their part in educating and sensitizing all those involved who live to take up further battles for conservation of environment. I would like to end this short talk with a small poem of an author I am not able to identify, which reads as follows. Our environment, so precious and rare, a gift of nature beyond compare. From rolling hills to the deepest sea, it's our home, it's where we should be. The air we breathe, the water we drink, the soil beneath, it's all in sync, a delicate balance that we must maintain for our future and our children's gain. The forests, the oceans, the wildlife too, all depends on us, what we say and do. Their homes destroyed, their lives in strife, we need to act to protect their life. From the smallest creature to the largest tree, each plays a role in our harmony. We must strive to keep them all alive for our survival and to thrive. The climate changes, the temperatures rise. The consequences we cannot disguise. The impact of our actions now in view, it's time to act to see it through. For our planet is not just a place we live, it's a treasure that we must give to the generations that come after us. Let's preserve it without any fuss. Thank you.
The pointers that my Lord has given, I think, would be a great motivation for you to take up issues. But a word of caution from a person who has been in this litigation for many years. We fought for a park in one of the suburbs in Bangalore. China, myself, and Senior had appeared whenever we had difficulties. We filed the petition in 2005 to vacate all the unauthorized occupants and revive it as a park under the requirement of a lung space to a given layout. 2005, that's 2004 is the writ petition number. 2017 is when the park was finally inaugurated. So all those who want to take up issues require a lot of patience. All the guidance that have been now given, everything is going to work. You can take that from me. But it has its own time limit, and that it will happen. And as they say, there's always light on the other side of the tunnel. Sir, as per the April 2024 pendencies with regard to the pollution related cases in our High Court, we have about 80 cases that are still pending. And insofar as forest cases, we have almost 500 cases that are pending. And as I said, and I won't repeat, that for some time now we've not taken up any of these matters. All these data have been provided by authorized institutions, and I should thank Banu for that, for this. And now for the talk that you're all assembled here for. Sir, I'll take a minute before I call upon you. One is, he was the most popular judge who was in my career that I had seen with regard to environment. He's given the maximum number of orders, and I must also say, having said that many of them are not yet complied, but then sufficiently at that point of time, they were put into effect. Now, these are issues which are ongoing. It is like getting equal rights for women. It's like evergreen. It's just going on. It's work in progress. It just goes on. And time and again, courts need to monitor it. And when he was at the realm, he did it so wonderfully. I don't know if Mr. Professor T.J. Renuka Prasad is with us today. Sir, he has sent something which I want to read for you. Honorable Justice Mr. Abhay S. Oka has issued the stay for Janabharati forest destruction while allowing a petition, and it has helped to save the Biopark Part 1 in the year 2021. My salute to him for protecting the biodiverse forest. Later, the signature campaign has done miracle, and the UGC has issued a circular asking all universities in the country to create a Nagaravana within their campus for biodiverse forest with public participation. No doubt, now we are losing 50 acres of land in Janabharati. Our friend is here whose college is in, our college is in the campus of Janabharati for Sahyadri Vana. The public request has asked for CM's intervention to protect the bio park in and around the city. So your order has led into so many things. One of our citizens have given us this response, and I thought I should share with you. There's so much more to tell about His Lordship, but I think we'll hear him first. Thank you. Sir.
It's a pleasure to come back to Bangalore. And today I am more happy because I could see many lawyers who practiced before me, and I have fond memories of each of them. And today they are, of course, in different capacity, and they are today, all of them are very relaxed, but they know that they don't have to appear before me now. But I am really delighted to see all of them here. The first speaker, Madam Nirmala Gowda, what she spoke was an eye-opener. My mind went back to 2015 when I dealt with a litigation, PIL, concerning the equitable distribution of water. In Maharashtra, we have a very famous city of Aurangabad, where one of the two benches of the High Court is situated. Now, this time of the season, in April, May, the city gets supply twice a week. And irony is that one of the biggest dams, Jayakwadi Dam, is at a distance of 40 kilometers away from that city. So I had to pass a long order regarding equitable distribution of water. It is my privilege to address this August gathering on a very important subject of environment, which is very dear to me. Junior colleagues of Sri D.L.N. Rao, Senior Advocate, have taken this great initiative. I was delighted to know that they are going to sponsor 2 students who are going to take education in law. That is very much necessary because now the legal education has also become very costly. Only one thing which I want to tell about Mr. Rao, some of the members of the bar remember that even before lockdown was declared, some of the high courts had reduced the functioning, but somehow I insisted that we should go on and on. But we wanted to start some precautionary measures like having thermal guns, thermal checkup at the entrance of the High Court. But we are not getting thermal guns. We are not getting sufficient quantity of sanitizers. So sitting in first court, I said that this is a difficulty we are facing. Next day in the morning, Mr. Rao, somehow he procured thermal guns and sanitizers and other equipment, and he handed over to a registry. And in fact, the first thermal checkup at the entry point of the High Court, we started by using the thermal guns given by Mr. Rao. And I know that many activities are taken up by the trust and many are going to follow. But I am really glad that they have taken this initiative to have this kind of a workshop on environmental law. And for one more thing, I want to thank the organizers. They have chosen one of the best places available for this kind of a workshop, that is Kabban Park. Because I have fond memories of Kabban Park, except for the short period when during pandemic Kabban Park was kept closed. From Monday to Friday, I was taking morning walk here. Saturday and Sunday I used to go to Lal Bagh. So it's the best place to have discussion on environmental law. And what is more important is today's topic. The topic is about environmental justice. And perhaps this year is the most appropriate year to discuss this topic because we are celebrating 75 years of making of our constitution. A different approach to the environmental law is required. Now, if you see our preamble, the preamble says, "We people of India resolve to secure to all its citizens justice, liberty, equality and fraternity." Now, the concept of justice in our preamble is not the justice which people get from the traditional justice delivery system, namely the courts. But what is important is there are three facets of justice which are mentioned. The first is, of course, social, second is economic. There are two important facets of justice. Now, I want to say that the concept of environmental justice will fall in the category of social as well as economic justice, and I'll try to make good what I want to say today. As you all of you know that Supreme Court has repeatedly said that pollution of air and water must be regarded as violation of Article 21 of the Constitution. As you know that Article 21's interpretation of Article 21, the Supreme Court has said that it encompasses into it right to live with human dignity. Now, nobody can live with human dignity without healthy environment and pollution-free environment. Understood in common sense, pollution is of air, water and noise. Talking about environment, it will include both man-made environment and the natural environment. Of course, all of us know that polluted environment is a matter of grave concern for the very existence of human beings. We degrade and destroy our environment under a wrong notion that the earth belongs to us, but we forget that in fact we belong to the earth. We are under a wrong notion that environment belongs to us, but in fact we belong to environment. It is true that environmental justice to some extent was taken on higher pedestal by our courts by holding that environmental pollution has to be treated as violation of Article 21. The protection of environment is not only necessary for preserving the natural resources available on planet Earth, but more importantly, it is necessary for human being to lead very healthy, constructive and very meaningful life. If you are not able to preserve our environment from the attacks, we'll be doing a great injustice to our society at large. That is where social justice comes into picture. If we allow degradation of the environment or destruction of the environment, we are denying ourselves social justice which is guaranteed under the preamble of our Constitution. The drastic effects of our environmental degradation and destruction are far-reaching. Environmental degradation causes loss of natural resources. It causes contamination of water in our rivers and wells. It contaminates our beaches, our seafronts, and our creeks. If groundwater gets polluted and river water gets polluted, the community of farmers get adversely affected. Contaminated water or contaminated beaches, seawater and creeks affects the community of fishermen. I can give example after example which will prove that the degradation adversely affects the sources of livelihood of poor and marginalized. Today is not the day to elaborate on well-known principles such as sustainable development, public trust doctrine, polluter pays principle, precautionary principle, etc. These are the principles evolved by various decisions of the Supreme Court of India. So my emphasis today is on this, that if we don't protect our environment, we'll be denying a common man of this country social and economic justice. As I said, environmental justice is part of our social and economic justice. Considering the environmental justice in the context of traditional justice delivery system, namely the courts, I must say that all courts have to remember one thing, that whenever a case is decided, the first and foremost consideration should be the need for preservation of the environment. When we do injustice to the environment, we do injustice to all living beings. We as judges have a constitutional duty to protect the environment. In a lighter vein, I'll say something, I don't mean disrespect to anybody. You know, we have green benches established in various high courts. Now someday we'll have to examine and ask a question to ourselves, how green are our green benches? Another aspect of the environment is climate change. Actually, climate change and global health are interconnected issues. Hotter temperatures will make poverty reduction harder by increasing food insecurity and prevalence of diseases and diverting resources away from those who need them the most. It's a vicious cycle. The poorer community is more vulnerable it is to climate change. The effects of climate change are drastic. Of course, climate change is not the main subject on which we are deliberating upon today. All of you know that there are international conventions starting from Stockholm Convention, and there are a number of conventions to which India is a party. To save the time, I will not refer to all the conventions, but some of you must be aware that the Government of India has published a strategy document which is known as Long-Term Low Emission Development Strategy, which seeks to achieve net zero emission by 2070. I think that particular strategy has been submitted by the Government of India to United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Changes. And that document talks about assurance to the world that as far as our country is concerned, 50% of the energy demand will be made from renewable resources by the end of 2030. Somebody told me that the same policy document talks about adapting to climate change, which would cost India rupees 85 trillion by 2030. We don't know whether such kind of a budget allocation will be made by the government. Coming back to the effects of destruction or degradation of environment, we can say that city of Bengaluru is a victim of environmental degradation. Earlier speakers have talked about the huge water scarcity faced by the city. As a child, I used to hear and I used to read that Bengaluru was one of the environmentally rich cities having a beautiful green color. Srimati R.Anuradha talked about the lakes. I had occasion to pass a very drastic order directing the state to identify all lakes which had disappeared across the state and to ensure that the lakes are regenerated, lakes are restored. And as she rightly said, I could not complete the task because by end of August 21, I had to leave this city. Otherwise, I could have done something for implementation of those directions. So it happens in many cases that there are directions of the court in place dealing with various environmental issues, but we lack in terms of implementation. And what is lacking is scrupulous implementation of those orders concerning the environmental issues. I was lucky to be party to several decisions of the Bombay High Court, Karnataka High Court and Supreme Court dealing with issue of environment. I was lucky to appear in some of the environmental matters as a lawyer on both the sides. I had occasion to appear in a PIL which was filed to save Sanjay Gandhi National Park in Mumbai. Of course, I was appearing for the other side because some of the organizations felt that it will do a lot of injustice to slum dwellers. So I appeared for slum dwellers. So I have seen these litigations for last 40 years as a lawyer and as a judge. My experience is that selected few individuals show enthusiasm and courage to take up environmental issues. And I don't blame this kind of a situation because the history shows that those who are really enthusiastic, those who go out of the way and file litigations in the court dealing with environmental issues, they don't get active support of the society. In fact, it's a matter of common knowledge that those who take up the issues of environment are branded as somebody who are anti-development or somebody who want to come in the way of development. Perhaps it happens because of a wrong concept of development. I'll deal with that a little later. This is the tragedy of our society. We must remember that those who are fighting for environment are fighting for social and economic justice. And they take up the fight to uphold the right of citizens to live in a pollution-free environment. My mind goes back to year 2000. I was born and brought up in a city of Thane which is next to Bombay. And There was one enthusiastic retired bank manager who had worked in army on 5 years short commission. So he came to me one fine morning. He was our family friend. He produced old gazetteer published by the then Bombay government in 1881, and he told me that, sir, all of us are born and brought up in city of Thane, but we had 27 lakes as indicated in the gazetteer, and now today only 8 lakes are in existence. So he wanted me to file a PIL to restore one lake which was full of illegal constructions. And I remember his plight. We filed a PIL, and we are lucky that after a few days, court passed an order directing demolition of all illegal structures and restoration of the lake. But the point which I want to tell you is this. Of course, that job was left incomplete by me, because by the time I was elevated, 90% of structures were demolished. And then some other member of the bar took up, who incidentally is again sitting judge of the Bombay High Court. When 50% of structures were demolished, overnight a temple was constructed on the site of that lake. And when this gentleman raised an objection to the construction of temple, 2 FIRs were registered against him. He was arrested. And fortunately, we had a very proactive judge who in the PIL quashed both the FIRs, because he felt that this man is being victimized because he raised the issue of environment. So at that time I realized what is the plight of those who take up the issues of environment. Carrying that story little further, one of my junior colleagues took over that litigation and conducted it well. Ultimately, a day came when all the structures were demolished, and Bombay High Court appointed the then member of the bar, who was very enthusiastic in environmental matters. He is Justice Gautam Patel, who is the judge of the Bombay High Court, and he was appointed as commissioner to guide all the authorities to restore the lake and create a walking track around the lake. And what is the plight of environmentalists? At every stage, all authorities, the government, the municipal corporation, resisted the litigation. And after a lake was restored, a beautiful garden and walking track was created. The then Chief Minister of Maharashtra was invited to inaugurate the restored lake. And there were photographs published at the entrance showing the great job done by the municipal corporation and government. There are 2 things which are lacking. One was name of this gentleman was not mentioned anywhere. And secondly, this man was not invited to attend that function. And his friend was staying in a building across the lake. So he went to his friend, he sat in the balcony of his friend and could see the function. So at that time I realized that this is how we treat those who take up the environmental issues. In fact, when I see the plight, because I dealt with several issues of environment in Bombay High Court. One was, of course, noise pollution issue. I'll come to that little later. But when I see the plight of those who take up these issues, I always remember what Albert Einstein said in a different context. What he said was, the world is a dangerous place, not because those who do evil, but because those who look on and do nothing. I remember this aptly applies to environmental degradation, that there are people who simply look on but fail to do anything. The problem is compounded by the fact that we don't reward who fight for environment. Not that they want rewards, but all that they want, those who fight for environment, they want support of the society. They want support of the citizens. But somehow that support does not come. I always believe that the courts will not be able to do justice in environmental matters unless those who fight for environment are supported by the society at large. The environmental concerns have to be balanced with the need for development. There are quite a few who nowadays advocate that the development work must get precedence. All this happens because perhaps there is misconception about the concept of development, and we need to redefine our concept of development. Development is not only construction of roads, bridges, metro. Development is something more than that. Development in the context of our constitutional values or constitutional concepts is completely different. How do we define development in the context of Constitution, which incorporates Article 48A, which enjoins the state to endeavor to protect and improve the environment and to safeguard our forests? Then we have Clause G of Article 51A of the Constitution, which lays down that the fundamental duty of every citizen is to protect and improve natural environment. Now, those who are in the helm of the affairs, they are also bound by Article 51AG. It is their duty also to protect the environment. I read a beautiful article some time back, written in one of the Marathi newspapers. Author said something which I developed later on, the concept of development. He was in the context of city of Mumbai, and a reference was to one of my judgments as a judge of the Bombay High Court. One issue came up before me in Bombay High Court. You know, Bombay has large slums, and a very eminent citizen of Bombay who was instrumental in constructing the first flyover in city of Mumbai, and who was instrumental in planning of twin city of New Bombay. He filed a PIL along with a retired IAS officer. The issue raised was that a person who stays in illegal slums, which may have been constructed on public properties, he has right to get water. And it was again hotly contested by the government, and ultimately the material which was brought on record was really shocking. And then I realized the other issue of concept of development. The material which was brought on record showed that about 17% of the police constables working in police force in Mumbai were residing in slums of Mumbai. And the reason is very simple. I am talking only about Bombay, but it will apply to Bengaluru, it will apply to Delhi, it will apply to any other major city, so-called developed cities in our country. That somebody who has salary of say 25,000, 20,000, one who is posted in the city to work, maybe as a Group D employee, he can't afford to buy accommodation, even on rental basis. That's so peculiar for city of Mumbai. So he has no option but to go and stay in a slum. So there we have to hold that even a person who is staying in illegal slum on a public property has fundamental right to receive water, so long as he is not evicted from that place. And the article was in the context of this judgment. The author said something very interesting, and I want to just add to that. He said, what is the concept of development? In independent India, when we have celebrated 75 years of independence and now 75 years of constitution. One, a common man must get a small house at affordable rate. Secondly, he must get facilities of education. His children must get facility of education at a competitive rate, affordable rate. And thirdly, he must get medical facilities which are readily available, which he can afford. Now, this is the concept of development as far as our constitution is concerned. And therefore, I always say that development is not only about constructing bridges, roads, and other projects like metro railway. Talking about the cities, Madam Anuradha referred to number of vehicles on the road. This is a common issue in all cities across the country, especially I am saying the context of Bombay. Irrespective of the party in power, every government which comes does one step without fail. That one step is increase FAR, floor area ratio, which is Bombay known as different. It is floor space index, FSI. Keep on increasing the floor space index. So where earlier a new building consisting of ground plus 4 floors could be constructed, now we have ground plus 8. Now if you have buildings of ground plus 8 in city like Mumbai, those who can afford to buy those houses, they have 2 cars, 2 and more cars also. So density of population increases in the city, number of cars and vehicles on the road increase, and that all contributes to the pollution in the city. So this is also a concept of development that will build huge buildings and more buildings in the cities, but at what cost? I am not an expert in the field of town planning, but someday those who are involved in town planning activities will have to seriously consider this aspect at what is the concept of development and whether this concept of development will really take us forward or it will take us back as far as environment is concerned. The other issue which always comes up when we deal with environmental justice is about felling of trees. And fortunately Mr. Hola is here. He used to be always the receiving end before me because he used to come with applications for felling of trees for metro. Then I always used to tell him that I don't trust your tree authorities. So we constituted a committee of experts, and I am happy to note that practically every proposal used to come before the court, every IA used to come before the court. After the expert committee used to consider that, we used to save at least 10 to 15 trees. And I think at that time the rule was compensatory afforestation, 1:5. So I made it 1:10, which Mr. Hola gracefully accepted. Now there is a serious issue. I am not going to dwell on that because I am dealing with same litigation in Supreme Court, felling of trees and what method should be adopted. But there is a concept of compensatory afforestation. One of the benches in Supreme Court is dealing with it. Perhaps I will have to also deal with the issue that when we talk about compensatory afforestation, whether it really compensates the environment, because wherever trees are there, they are gone. In fact, I remember when I was the Chief Justice here, I had raised an issue that if you are going to plant, if you are going to fell trees in Bengaluru urban district, but you are going to plant trees in Bengaluru rural district, it is no compensation. This doesn't compensate the environment. So whether this compensatory afforestation really helps the cause is an issue which will be gone into by the Supreme Court. So I am not really dealing with that. When we deal with the issue of pollution, we always talk about air pollution, we always talk about noise pollution, we always talk about the water pollution. But another important pollution is noise pollution. Because in our cities, now we face noise pollution on account of religious festivals. I was happy to write a very detailed judgment on noise pollution, especially dealing with festivals. Of course, that led to many controversies in Bombay. That litigation was withdrawn from me, and bar associations had to pass a strong resolution against the Chief Minister, the Chief Justice and Advocate General. There's all matter of history. But noise pollution is also a pollution which threatens us. Because there is a fundamental right also. Nobody can compel me to hear something which I don't want to hear. If I am staying in an apartment, you can't force me to hear some music, some loud music on or some religious discourse on loudspeaker after 10 o'clock in the night. After 10 o'clock in the night in most of the states, it is not permissible to use the public address system, loudspeakers. So I have right to say that I don't want to hear unwanted things after 10 o'clock in the night. So noise pollution is also important part of the environmental justice, and that is an area where we need to work a lot. Now I just want to flag 3 issues before I close. I mean, what are the basic tenets or what are the basic issues which we face in environmental justice? I am party to one of the judgments, Narendra Singh's case, where in a combination of 3, we reiterated Godavaram. Godavaram is a 2-bench judgment. So 3 issues have been flagged, and I want to do that with great deal of emphasis. When we talk about environmental justice, it won't be complete without, number 1, strict implementations of laws relating to environment. And in fact, there should be zero tolerance when it comes to violation of law relating to environment. Then second is a very strict implementation of the view taken in Rajiv Suri's case about the sustainable development. What is the meaning of sustainable development? Whenever I speak on sustainable development, I really can't avoid temptation of quoting only one sentence in Rajiv Suri's case. That one sentence sums up the entire issue. And I'll read with your permission. Now that one sentence is, the expression sustainable development incorporates a wide meaning within its fold it contemplates that development ought to be sustainable with the idea of preservation of natural environment for the present and future generations. So that's the concept of the sustainable development. We must implement this concept of sustainable development when cases come before us on the judicial side for permitting development at the cost of the environment. And third is little unknown. Third concept is the environmental rule of law. We have quoted in that Narendra Singh's judgment. Now this is based on a document of 2015 created by United Nations Environment Program. I'll tell you what is the concept of environmental rule of law. In one sentence, it means the critical environmental needs must be integrated with the essential element of rule of law. So what are the needs of environment? What are the needs of protecting environment? They must become integral part of what we call it as rule of law. And that is environmental rule of law. Now these are the three basic tenets or basic concepts which we have to consider when we discuss the issue of environmental justice. But I always feel, I started with strict implementation of the environmental laws. I always feel that stricter implementation of the environmental laws is not possible without public participation and support. For that purpose, we also need a positive approach on the part of the state and its instrumentalities. It is my experience of last 20 years as judge of 3 constitutional courts that without an exception, whenever environmental issue comes up before the court, the stand of the state is very stiff. I remember 2 cases. One case which is actually more relevant in the context of Maharashtra, that is the protection of mangroves. We gave status of reserved forest to mangroves. That is how we could protect the mangroves. But there also, there was fierce opposition by the state government. So I'm not on any particular government. Irrespective of the party in power, the tendency of the governments is to oppose any matter which involves environmental issues. There may be political compulsions, whatever reason, but the approach is same irrespective of the party in power. So therefore, if environmental laws are to be implemented, the courts have their own limitations. Ultimately, the state, as we call it, must take proactive role. And apart from that, what is required is an improved institutional framework. That's the need of the hour. And all of us must remember one thing. We cannot improve and protect our environment unless there is comprehensive approach to environmental financing. If environment is to improve, the government must ensure that adequate funds are allocated for protecting the environment, for the purposes of effective working of all those institutions which have been created for protecting an environment under the various statutes. So state must make available adequate funds to protect the environment, and the institutions under the environmental laws must be strengthened. Unless those institutions are strengthened, for example, tree authority. Now practically every state has a law where a tree authority is created, and you can't fell a tree without permission of the tree authority. That is there in Maharashtra, that is there in Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, everywhere that law is there. But look at the implementation of the law. In most of the cases, these tree authorities work as rubber stamp. The moment there is application by any public authority for so-called development work, it gets approval, a rubber stamp from the tree authority without any application of mine. So this is where I say that we must strengthen these institutions. These institutions must become powerful and strong so as to sustain the pressure of various government authorities. And then people find out via media. People find out loopholes in the laws, especially laws permitting tree felling. So therefore, these are the institutions which need to be strengthened. The tree authorities have to be manned by really true experts in the field and who have interest in the environment. Unless we strengthen our institutions and unless government allocates sufficient funds for strengthening the institutions and for preserving and protecting the environment, the efforts by the courts will not be sufficient. Personally, I don't believe in God. I am practicing atheist. But I read a lot what our saints have said in the past. Without an exception, go to any state, our saints, our old philosophers, for centuries have said that we must protect our environment, we must protect our trees, we must protect our wildlife. In all ancient literature, we will find that saints have said that we must maintain the pristine glory of our environment. One of the great saints in Maharashtra in 17th century, Santa Tukaram, he said that the trees are our family members. That was his concept, that trees are our family members. Trees are family members of the human beings. So that was the approach adopted by our forefathers. But today, we build temples, we celebrate occasions of birth centenary of these famous saints, but we don't follow what they have really preached. We don't follow that they themselves believed that the nature has to be protected, the trees have to be protected, and wildlife has to be protected. We must expand the scope of environmental justice, which we are rendering in courts. The environmental justice is an integral part of our justice delivery system. And in fact, when we render environmental justice, we render justice which is guaranteed under the preamble of the Constitution, social and economic justice. And therefore, that's the importance of environmental justice, the concept of environmental justice. And I always feel, talking about the environment, that we must protect environment for our future generations. That's what even Rajiv Suri's judgment says. That today's generation will feel that we want to construct a flyover, therefore we will permit felling of about 200 trees. But to that extent, green cover disappears. And therefore I always tell, I'll only change the name of the city since I am in Bengaluru, that we have to think about our future generations. If we allow activity of felling of trees, which is happening in all cities across India, talking about Bengaluru today, some citizens are here, large number of citizens are here. Maybe after 25 years, they'll have to tell their children that once upon a time, Bengaluru had a green cover, because maybe after 25 years, younger generation may not see the green cover. That's the plight of every city in our country. And therefore now, what next? Of course, the courts have to play a very important role, dominant role in protecting the environment. But that is not going to be sufficient. And we must sensitize, we must go to the schools and sensitize the students. I was lucky, I was a student of a school where we had a principal who was very, very sensitive about environment. There is a story of our principal, which is written in one of the books. You know, like Karnataka, in Maharashtra, theatre is very popular. I am talking about 60s, mid-60s, where there were not too many enclosed theatres. So in those days, the practice in Maharashtra was to have open-air theatres. So our school had a huge ground. So the management of the school thought that that ground can be converted into open-air theatre with all the facilities, a good stage. And so they felt that that will give additional income to the school. But converting that ground into open-air theatre had a major hurdle. The major hurdle was, there was a tree which was said to be 100 years old, and that tree had to be cut. In those days, this Tree Authority Act was not in existence there. So we had a principal who was very sensitive. Now he said that when I am in the precincts of the school, please don't touch the tree. He was to attend a state level conference of the principals of schools in the state aided schools in the state. So he said, when I attend that conference, please touch the tree, because I won't be able to see that tree being felled. So this was the sensitive approach my teachers had in the school, and that helped me when I decided environmental matters. So I always feel that our National Social Service, there are many students who are part of National Social Service, then our legal service authorities and NGOs must take up a massive drive, massive campaign to develop awareness about environmental issues in our schools and colleges. Because only these younger generation, they will come forward after say 10 years to take up the environmental issues. And if we have that kind of a campaign in our schools and colleges, many young people will come forward, they will understand the importance of environmental issues, and they will be able to take up this fight, I'll call it as a fight, to save the environment. And I must say that unless there is public participation, we won't be able to save our environment. And I always believe that the courts will be rendering greater service to the community by expanding the scope of environmental justice. Fortunately, today we have many lawyers who appear pro bono in such litigations. I'm sure Madam Anuradha, pothole Anuradha, she described. And actually, now I must tell you very frankly that my order in Karnataka was cutting pasting job of Bombay High Court, because my esteemed colleague Justice Gautam Patel, as a judge, he wrote a letter to the Chief Justice, Justice Mohit Shah, and on the basis of that, Chief Justice Mohit Shah initiated a PIL which I dealt with for almost 6 years. And today also that only thing I could expand the concept and I could take it to the level of a fundamental right. So there are lawyers, there are people who are willing to take up environmental issues, but what is required is concentrated effort. I think I have consumed more time than what was assigned to me, but the topic is such that I can't stop, but I have to stop somewhere. So again, thank the organizers for giving me this great opportunity to talk on a subject which is very dear to me. In fact, I must say, I should have said it in the beginning, the speaker who introduced me, gave me long introduction starting from my date of birth. In fact, he could have given my introduction only in one sentence, that Justice Oka is former Chief Justice of Karnataka High Court. That was more than sufficient introduction. So I thank everybody, and I hope that, I am sure about it, that this initiative by foundation started in the name of the Learned Senior Counsel will continue, and especially the initiative started for helping the students who are undergoing legal education. Before I close, just little bit digression I will make. Now the legal education has become costly, and therefore other day we had a meeting with Secretary of Department of Justice. I had meeting with the Secretary of the Department of Justice of Government of Maharashtra. I told them the need of the hour is not only that our state should start more and more national law schools, but the states must start new colleges, government law colleges in all cities, because only if there are government law colleges, the legal education will be reasonable. I always remember my days in Government Law College, Mumbai. In 1980, I took admission to Government Law College. The first term fee was rupees 124 and second term fee was rupees 87. Of course, that was 1980. But this initiative is very important, that will encourage students belonging to marginalized sections of the society to take up education in law. So I really appreciate this gesture on the part of the foundation. I again thank everybody for giving me patient hearing. Though as a judge I was not known for giving patient hearing, and therefore I must thank you very profusely. Thank you.
Thank you, Justice Oak, for your engrossing speech. And I must say, we also didn't want you to stop. But time is what is constant for everyone. And so thank you so much for your blessings and your encouragement. That I hope that we will take this, and our juniors will take this foundation thought forward and forward. I would also like to share at this moment that this idea of starting this foundation was from my better half, and he has given a good seed money for it, and so we're doing our best that we can, and our trustee members keep coming with great ideas, and that's how we are going it. Sir, can I take 10 minutes some questions from people? I have a personal question, sir. What would you say, what would you suggest to make our green bench more effective?
In a lighter vein, you should be asking this question to Chief Justices of various High Courts, rather than asking me. I agree with you. In fact, I myself said something about green benches. We need to strengthen our green benches, and I think the concept which was introduced by Justice Kuldeep Singh in the judgment. Only thing which I can say is that, see, as a Chief Justice, I have been a Chief Justice for 2 years and 3 months. Normally, it's the duty of every Chief Justice to find out the aptitude of individual judges. So when a green bench is to be constituted, it need not be necessarily of the bench presided by Chief Justice. So Chief Justice can do well by finding out those judges who are interested in the environment and make them part of the green bench. That's the only way of making it successful.
Thank you, sir. There's one question for His Lordship Yadav. This question for Yadav.
Just add one more thing.
Even the government has to be proactive in the sense that the Advocate Generals must post those additional Advocate Generals and the government advocates who are interested in the environment. So that will make the bench more effective.
So then, this answer is not for me, it's for everyone sitting here, and I think I purposely asked that one. Would the High Court of Karnataka take up matters of contamination and cleaning up of Vrishabhavati river, suo motu?
I am of the firm view that the Legal Services Authority has to become an active litigant in espousing public interest, and that would be the best strategy to achieve best results. So in that sense, I think any well-researched effort through the Legal Services Authority may be good strategy.
That was being done. I was there, it was being done. So many litigations regarding environmental issues and other issues were being filed by a Legal Services Authority. Actually, that's a good concept. Only Legal Services Authorities can do it.
So whoever was asked that question, please raise it to the Legal Services Authorities.
With due respect to all the dignitaries on the stage, I thanks a lot for your inspirational speech, sir. So one thing what I noticed, I will directly come to the question part. One thing what I noticed in India is there is no fear of law among the bureaucrats, among the people, among the judiciary. Sorry to say this, because in Karnataka we are facing this lot of irregularities in government departments where they are supposed to implement the laws that is created by the policymakers, where the orders of the court has been passed. But unfortunately, repeatedly, even after multiple reminders by the Honorable High Courts and even Supreme Court orders, not being respected by the bureaucrats. And on top of that, when we request the Lokayukta to file a complaint and litigate against the bureaucrats, Lokayuktas don't take it seriously. Do you think, sir, with respect, we need a governance mechanism on top of these 4 layers, independent body, which can investigate against the judiciary, which can against the wrong orders, investigation against the bureaucrats independently, investigate against the policymakers, which is independent body in nature, which acts as a governing body on top of these 4 constitutions? This is my question to you, sir. Thank you.
See, I am answering this question not as somebody who has worked as a judge or working as a judge. I'll give a simple answer to this. Those who man government offices, they are also citizens of India. Is it that we are saying that only those who are sitting in government and public offices, they don't follow law? I mean, go to any city, including Bangalore. How many citizens follow law regarding traffic, rules of traffic? The common man is following rules of traffic. So ultimately, what members of the public are doing, that is reflected when those who are sitting in responsible officers discharge their duties. So it's not one way. If all citizens decide to follow law very strictly, and smallest part of the law which concerns them, then only the situation will change. The society has to undergo change. There no court is going to help you.
Has passed some amendment regarding the Municipal Administration Act, 74th Amendment. Is that justiciable in all respects? That is number one. And secondly, the constant refrain from the judiciary about regarding this any PIL in this matter is that in the language used in the constitutional amendment is not shall, it is may. So because of that, they take refuge under that and they try to find ways and means of avoiding the passing orders saying that this has to be implemented. Because, just 1 minute, madam, that's all. The lack of a uniform Municipal Administration Act is leading to all problems in the city. If this act is passed properly and implemented properly, 80% of our municipal administration problems will be solved. So what is your suggestion, sir, in this? Well, how do
you are referring to the amendment brought to the Constitution which gave status of constitutional authorities to our municipalities. You are referring to that amendment. Right.
But there, the language used does not it says may.
See, I will just respond in one sentence because these are all matters which come up before us. But law is very clear that in many cases may is interpreted as mandatory, not necessarily always directory. Many cases it is being implemented, even some of the provisions of constitution, the word may has been implemented as shall.
Now as an advocate, filing PL, particularly on environments, the rules are made so complex. It's so complex, ordinary person cannot approach and cannot file this PL on environment. Now when I file the PL for environment, the rules in the High Court, whether in the High Court of Karnataka or in any other High Courts, what is your income and how it has been funded and is there any criminal case against you? Of course, criminal case in a political venue they can ask. I am an environmentalist where I fought it, as my lord said it, they have filed a criminal case against me, a false case by a political person. These are things which makes more complex, complicated to approach the High Court in a PL, particularly on environmental issues. That should have some solution.
There I may be wrong, but my personal view is that these are all procedural rules. They don't come in the way of court entertaining a PIL.
Correct.
Because they are all basically procedural rules.
On that technical issues, our courts are dismissed and rejected in the preliminary stage.
That normally should not happen, but courts are not precluded from taking up PILs even if there are some procedural lacunas. It can be treated as suo motu, as Mr. Hon'ble said. See, in so many cases we do it. If some credentials of the PIL petitioner are pointed out, we decentralize and continue PIL, we treat it as suo motu. Court has sufficient powers, these procedural rules won't come in.
That's the broader view.
Come in as hurdle.
Malad was discarding, but what we felt is right where on small technical issues, very important natural issues, natural these environmental issues, they have rejected. It's a very sad thing. We are answerable to the society. We have no self-interest or we have no...
It's a matter which are taken up on the administrative side of the High Court in a lighter way. Your president was here some time back.
My name is J.R. Prakash. I am the founder president of my area resident welfare association and I am an activist on so many issues also. So whatever has been discussed, some points are there for me to say, but everything has been covered by you in general. So here my suggestion is, when once a just orders or justification is passed by the court, they just close the file and put it aside, which is creating a big problem. One of our volunteer, Mr. R.Anuradha, for encroachment of a lake, he was fighting for that along with some volunteers like us also. When once the court issued an order to stay, work was going on. When these people went, they were taken under custody on different rules. Why is this? So my request is, whenever a PIL is justified, please don't close the file and keep it aside. You will have to recall the happenings and the stages at regular intervals and see that whatever justice has been given has to be implemented in full, in the right order. So this is one suggestion what I like to give. And now one park in Cambridge Road Cross is being utilized where I am taking up that issue also. And regarding noise pollution, what you said, I want to take it. Now on the way when I came, in a silent zone, noise pollution that is a display at Corporation Circle was around 70 dC. It is a silent zone. There is a residential area, it was about 30 dC. So like this is going on. So this is the suggestion we want to give. So whatever orders has to be passed, because you are there at the Supreme Court, so I think you can take up the issue and then pass the orders to all the courts in the country so that no PIL issues are closed by the court. It has to be kept open and recorded.
Good evening, sir. This is Pratima Hon'ble. I have appeared before Justice Oak on COVID matters, and we remember in the vacations also we had every day hearing, my lords. It was an honor to appear before you, my lords. And the suggestion my lords have given that for green bench pollution matters, that any additional advocate general or any person who is actually interested in environmental, I definitely bring it to the notice of learned advocate general. And no suggestions, sir. Thank you. And we'll comply.
Good evening, everyone. Before I commence my vote of thanks, I would request the members of the trust to felicitate the 4 judges who have taken out valuable time on a long weekend, second Saturday, to spend time with us on a late afternoon. May I request Mr. Raghavendra to kindly hand over the pot to Justice Amannavar. Mr. Shreeniwas to hand over the pot to Justice Anantramanath Hegde. Ms. Sabha to hand over the pot to Justice Poonacha. Ms. Aishwarya to hand over the pot to Justice Vijay Kumar Patil. Mr. B.L.N. Rao to hand over a small memento to Justice O.